folks, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits, brought to you by Seagar's High Performance Braids. This week we are digging in. It is that time. We're heading to the fourth and final stop of the National Walleye Tour on Lake Sakakawea. So it's time to bring in my special guests once again, Drake Curtin, John Balla, and myself, as we break it down, give you our predictions, our fantasy picks, what we think the weights are going to be, cover down a little bit of Greenbay. And I think we're going to dig into the 2025 National Walleye Tour schedule and see what everybody's thoughts on that are. So it should be a good one as we move into the final regular season event this year, moving on to the championship out of Lake Huron in, I believe that's the first week of September. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits. Once again, joined by our co-hosts John Balla and Drake Curtin as we break down the fourth and final stop of the National Walleye Tour event this year up in North Dakota on Lake Sakakawea. Amazing fishery, which you've heard a lot about on the recent podcast. And we're going to wrap up, obviously, at Lake Huron this year for the National Walleye Tour Championship. I believe that's the first week of September. So let's just jump right in with Drake. Give us a little, Greenbay was difficult to say the least for some, not you so much, as you and your guys did really well with Eric winning it. I think you were sitting in second, third on the first day.
Yep, third place.
Good bag. So how'd that go? What'd you guys come up with? Just a little insight on how good and how bad Greenbay was.
It wasn't good. I'll be honest, I still thought the alewife thing wouldn't, I'd find some fish someplace. They're going to be biting at some place in this system. And it was crazy how you couldn't even mark fish in a lot of areas. It was just one of those things where it's okay, after 2 days, I think I caught one in 2 days out getting there. And then I'm like, oh boy, this could be a lot different. But I think we just, Eric honestly got us on a little bit of something, with the hair jig thing. And then we just kind of kept expanding on that. I spent a day up the west side. Was probably my best day, honestly. I think I only caught 9 or 10 fish pre-fishing. But I caught 4 up the west side one day. And they were all big. Pre-fishing, people are you didn't catch any small fish? And I'm like, I really didn't. I don't think I caught a fish that was smaller than 25, 26 inches. If you would get them to bite or if you'd find them, they were big fish. It was just one of those things. And so we kind of just kept expanding on areas. And then, late in the week, we kind of narrowed it down a little bit. And just based on the conditions with that northeast wind, we were going to fish this one spot. And 1, 2, 3, and 4 all came out of the same spot after day one. So it was pretty crazy, to have that. So obviously the going into the second day, we knew that spot wouldn't fire. It was going to be a lot calmer. Guys were going to be able to run. And so I think we all went there. I was probably the first one to bail. I only stayed for probably 25, 30 minutes, and I could just tell it wasn't going to happen. And I headed all the way up, to Escanaba. That's where we were going. And so I went all the way up. It was crazy. Kevin wasn't very far behind me. Eric, he's kind of stayed down there. And Danny Woodkey, who we weren't working with, this was in the spot. He wins whatever it is, 50% of the Greenbay ones was. And him and Eric kind of just stayed down there, and they were going to battle down there. So, went up to, Big Bay to knock. I had 4 bites, and I got 1 to the boat, and that was that. It was another, I think it was an 8 or 9 pounder. It was a huge fish again. But I just didn't get the other ones to the boat. And there was guys around me that were, and that's kind of how you write your story. Had I gotten, 2 of those fish, 1 of those fish, I would have really been close to Eric and Jake L, but it's just part of the story. So, overall, I'm super happy. It was a battle. And, we'll go on to Sakakawea. It was just one of those things where you knew we weren't going to get many bites, and we only needed 3, but it was going to be tough the whole time, type of thing.
Yeah, that's the hair jig is just obviously a staple in Greenbay, and I can honestly say it's the first time I didn't already have one tied up in my boat before I left my house. I just completely nothing. rip and
Yeah.
wrap, spoons. Spoons was new, and I think I got
Yep.
sucked into that thing. But
Yep.
like you said, we did catch them for practice. They were 5 and 6 pounders. I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, well, that was caught on spoon. It's working. And I had big plastics, which one of them I never used. But then I catch one on a 4-inch jerk shad. I'm like, all right. And then you catch one on a rip and wrap. I'm like, what the hell? I think you just got to find the right fish, and they'll bite whatever you throw at them. But
Yep.
there's also something to said for hair jigs.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't like to tell many people this, but I like to throw big swim baits like 4.5, 5.5 inch paddle tails on Green Bay to see fish. I don't get them to bite it very much, but literally they'll follow it right to the boat, and I can be like, all right, at least it was a walleye or whatever it was. It's a northern or whatever. I can at least see the fish, so I have more confidence going back there. And that's where we ended up throwing a rip and wrap and a hair jig is just kind of what we went to. We threw spoons some, and some of those guys up north were throwing blade baits. I mean, I'll give them credit. Like, I didn't think of that, and they caught some on that too. So I took my kicker off for Green Bay, and I wasn't going to troll. And some of those guys caught very nice fish trolling too. So it was just kind of pick your poison, and that's what we had confidence with. So that's what we were going to do.
Well, it worked out. You got good points, kind of sealed the deal. You just need to show up Sakakawea and catch a fish, I think, and you should make. John knows those numbers. So, what do you got for stats on? Yeah, knock on wood. And aren't you glad it made you knock on wood at rules meeting?
Yes, 100%. It was funny because at the rules meeting, like, I was waiting for someone to ask this question, and no one was asking, like, can we have them check the fish? Like, if we have to come in early, that's fine, but can we have someone check the fish to make sure they're alive? No one asked it. So I literally was like knocking on something, and Bashore goes, that's not wood. So then I had to walk over and knock on some wood, and it happened to work out because it was funny because I'm like, well, let's say I'm in by 10 o'clock on the first day. Can you guys check my fish? Well, I was in at like 9:45 the first day. It was crazy.
Yeah, you knocked on the drop matter of cloth.
Yeah,
that's not wood. It's not gonna help you out there, buddy.
Yeah. So
you called a shot. That was awesome.
Yeah.
John, you got some stats on how that all broke down and worked out for us?
I mean, some pretty incredible numbers. When we, last time we talked about whether or not this 3 fish was going to affect averages or whatnot, and it kind of played out to where they're fairly close to the consistent averages of 5 fish tournaments, and I'll get into that. But just some brief, kind of highlights from the results. Eric McCoy wins his second tournament. He's cashed now 11 checks in 18 events only, including 7 in a row. So he tied the late, great David Anderson with 7 in a row. He's got a chance to break that record at SAC. He's had 4 top 10s in his last 5 events. So, arguably he is super hot. I don't know if you guys saw it today, but he just won the AIM event on Ocano today as well.
Yeah, I called him. We've been talking the last couple of days about that, and he's like, I think I got a chance, and I'm like, really? And he's like, yep, we're gonna go and we're gonna see what happens. And then I called him after the thing, and he's like, yep, I think we got it. We only caught 6, but they're the right ones. And I'm like, well, how much? And he's like, I don't know, 47 something. And I'm like, what? Like, where did you get that from? It was just crazy. So he's just on it, which is good. And it wasn't even in
I mean, once you...
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, once you're fishy, you tend to stay fishy for a while, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Once you're not fishy, you just tend to stay not fishy for a while.
Dude, it's the same thing though. Like, you get, like, it's you got to get your confidence back or whatever it is. It's just you get on a bender and you roll with it. The more and more I do this, the more and more I realize that.
Yeah, Drake, you had that's your 8th top 10. That's your 12th check you've had.
Yeah.
A lot of other tour veterans. Kevin McCoy cashed another check. Bjorkman cashed another check. Nussbaum, he's got 6 in a row also cashing checks, so he's got a chance to tie the record. Minky's he cashed his 20th check, so he's in 3rd place now, tied for 3rd all time. Will Pappenfuss, although he's only been around for a couple of short years, he's got 6 checks in his last 8 tournaments. I think he's actually might even have better than that in terms of top 10s. Let's see.
Yeah.
He has...
The reason I call him the silent walleye assassin. The guy just flies underneath the radar, and he's crushing it.
He's got 3 top 10s in 8 events. He's never finished lower than 41st in 8 events so far. So a year and 3/5 into his, 2-year career, he's doing pretty well. Let's
he's
get
still
into
ready for his triple digiter
number
though.
zeros.
I like Will a lot, but he's still got to get his triple digiter in there at some point. Though.
Well, it's only been a year.
Everybody.
It's only been 8 tournaments, right? It's such a small body of work. I mean, Hunter Nitty is on a bender right now with 3 straight top 10s, but last year he didn't do so well. I mean, he didn't.
It
make
might take a motor breakdown to get that triple digit, but it happens to everybody. So
it happens. There were only 3 fish limits caught on day 1. That's it. Only 23 guys caught 3 fish on day 1. 29 of them caught a limit on day 2. And after 2 days, you want to guess how many guys caught 6 fish?
I don't know. Not very many.
60?
10.
Oh, wait, yeah.
10 guys caught two limits. Yeah, 10 guys.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting to know like how many people threw those fish away. Like Justin Schneider had the limit for forever, and he threw it away because he was looking for points. It would be interesting to know how many people had those third fish in the boat and let them go.
It is a little bit of a skewed number, Drake. You're correct, because on these no call events, you have to make a decision. So, there's probably another 10 or 15 guys that threw a fish back that would have given them a third fish. But not that many. It wouldn't be that many more.
Right.
I don't think. And and mentioning Justin Schneider, his streak ended after 24 straight. Yeah, I think, wait a minute, I forget what the total was. Something like 20, since the 2022 or something, he caught a limit until the second day at Greenbay. So incredible streak for him. Let's see. Yeah, 24 straight. I think maximum fish he's caught in 24 straight. That streak ended. Day 1 had 47 people catch a 0. Day 2 only 28. So they were a little bit better. Fishing was a little bit better on day 2. Guys made some adjustments, probably knowing just in fear of not making the championship if they don't catch a fish. You're gonna have to go out and just get one for some points, and you're probably at least still put yourself in a chance to make the championship.
Weather was a little more tolerable to run. So.
What's that?
The weather was a little more tolerable on day 2 to move around and make some of the longer runs that a lot of guys bailed out on day 1. So.
Yeah, as far as 20-pound bags, there was 8 over 20 on day 1, only 5 on day 2. Thought that was interesting. If you would have caught 6 fish of the average fish for the tournament, the average fish was 5.36. You caught 6 of those, you would have finished at 32.21 or 8th place, $7,800.
What was the average going like into the tournament? Was it like 4 something or not even that high?
Yeah, let me share.
Sorry, I don't mean to
screen.
put you on the spot, but I remember us really looking at that. That was kind of interesting to see if it really went up a lot or not.
Let's share the screen here and let me know when you guys can see it.
Yep,
we got it.
All right, well, let me grab a highlighter. Collapse this out. So on the left side over here, these are the averages from all the 5 fish tournaments that we had on the bay, like the 8 of them that we had before this one.
Yeah.
So this was the average for first, 74, 10th, blah, 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 51.
Yep.
So the average fish for each of these tournaments, 7.44, 5.1, 4.21 for 20th, 3.73 for 30th.
Okay.
So, as we projected that going into this tournament, since we were only going to be allowed 6 fish in that tournament, projecting that was, taking the average, multiply it by 6, and you get this number, 44.61. Well, switching over this right side over here, you can kind of see what happens here. It's pretty interesting. Well, let me get rid of that eraser here. Once you take a look at the averages now from the results from 2024, first place is 43.9. That's what Eric had. 10th, 28.9, 23, 20. And here's the average per fish. So now you compare these to these, and here's what you get. It was only 0.1. First place was only 0.12 pounds less on average than the 5 fish derbies. And then if you go down, 10th place was 0.28 per fish less, 0.36 and 0.45. So the weights were a little bit better for this 20th and 30th because the weights did stack up. We talked about that. There's a lot of 3 to 500s in the system, or 3 to 4.5s. But if you look at this, pretty crazy. I mean, within a couple of pounds here, within 2 pounds here, within pound and a half here, and within 0.7 pounds for first. So
that's crazy.
Pretty consistent. Yeah, pretty consistent stuff. And yeah, so that's what I got for Green Bay for that. I think that was 10 guys out of 107 caught limits. It was 1 on hair jigs. 6 guys from Wisconsin, 8 guys from Minnesota cashed the 22 checks. So obviously dominated by Wisconsin and Minnesota guys, because that's where most of the touring guys are from anyway.
I mean, give us a little credit.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's honestly, it's it's good to see it. It's good to see most of the guys that catch a check are full-time veterans. There weren't as many local snipers taking some of the money as at Red Wing, for sure.
Yeah.
Not to put down local snipers, but I'm a champion for full-time anglers, so I'm always going to kind of talk about it in that way. So
yep, absolutely. Yep. Oh, good.
So I had a couple questions though, Drake. Like when you said you weren't really marking a lot of fish in the lower bay, were you marking more when you did get up to Big Bay?
Yeah, I would say so. So I think so. The first couple days I would fish weeds is kind of where I just wanted to find some fish and get some confidence. Well, then I wasn't really seeing much in the weeds, so then we kind of switched over to rocks. And that's when I started focusing more north and up the west side. And I don't know what the deal is with the west side exactly. If like there was a while there where the west side was just hot, and if you went up there you were going to win or do well. And I don't know if the pressure's there or if the fish just aren't there or what it is. And so like I would go up, let's just Cedar River, for example, is a spot I caught a few. But if I would mark the fish in the rocks, like I would catch that fish. Like it was weird. I could get him to bite, but I would see there one day and maybe 2 fish 2 days later. Like you could never get like 3, 4, 5 on a rock pile or anything like that. So, I just feel like as I went north more than towards Escanaba, I saw way more fish up there, and they were way more active, whether that was just up off the bottom or whatever it might be, So I would think I saw more in Escanaba, and maybe I just had more confidence up there. But I mean, you saw how many dollars we spent, whatever, $20-some thousand at Cedar River to get gas. Like that's how many guys went because that's where we were getting bit, and when you did find a school up there, like they were active and they were snapping, it was just a matter if you could get them to the boat.
Did your tactics change for that? You guys made that detour on day one. You fished some rocks.
Yep.
Were you fishing different techniques up in the weeds and up in Big Bay?
No, we were fishing, honestly. Well, I shouldn't say that. We were fishing rock sand transitions more so in Escanaba. I never fished weeds after those first 2 days where I couldn't get on them. And Kevin checked them a few other times, different weeds and stuff. And we didn't get onto that weed bite. And so we fished like sand and rock transitions way more up in Escanaba. And that's just kind of what we did. It was the same technique. We used the same. I had probably 30 of the exact same color hair jig tied up sitting there, and that's the only color I threw during the tournament. It was tough enough to where it's like, well, we've caught enough on this bait, like this is what we're gonna go with. And then I had my co-angler rotate between that hair jig and a rip and wrap. That's just what we did. I don't know.
Did you notice a difference in the alewives from the lower bay to the middle bay, then up in the bays to knock?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'll be honest, I don't think I went south of O'Connell. Kevin did one day, Eric maybe did one day. I didn't go south of O'Connell. but there was a ton of live alewives from like Ocano to, say, Marinette, Menominee. And then as you started going up that west side, started seeing a lot of dead ones. So I'm like, oh, this could happen any day. Well, then when you got up to Escanaba and stuff, you didn't mark any alewives, period. Like I didn't personally. I'm sure some guys found some, but like those fish were hungry, and I don't know if those alewives left or whatever it might be, but those fish were still there and they were hungry. So that's why I think a lot of guys ran that far. But that's where it was kind of interesting, because the lower part of the bay, I just felt like they were still there. They were still live. And then as we moved further up, they started to die, and then they were completely gone up in Escanaba.
I got a kind of a question for both of you. What were your, like, after practice, Brian and Dre, what were you guys thinking, like, going into the Derby? Like, okay, I'm going to catch my 6, or I'm hoping just to catch 1, or were you guys somewhere in between? Like, how confident were you guys that you were going to catch 3 a day?
You want to go first, Brian?
Oh, I only caught a few at practice, but when I got them quick. But it was more like 5-6 pounders, 15 pounds, and I was going to be way happy with that. 2 days, 15 pounds, 30. I'm like, good to go. That's enough points to put me where I'm at. So I hit a spot, but there's one, boom, 5 pounder. There's another one, boom, 6 pounder left. Went there day 1. White perch moved in like crazy, but they were there day 2. But I did the stupid thing and didn't go back because that's whatever.
30 pounds would have put you in the top 10.
Yeah. Yep. And then they were there day 2, and the guys that went back there's a few guys, and somebody weighed in at 9:30, and Randy told me afterwards, because he went there. He's like, yeah, you should have went to your spot. They were going this morning. The white perch moved out. I'm like, apparently, of course, that's how that works.
Yeah.
So, and I was going across, and I kind of had to go by it to go to my other spot where I got on the first day. And I had a third on the first day, but it was snagged. And I'm like, obviously, got to throw that one back. But,
yeah.
And I was like, no, we're just going to go straight over here. And I rolled in. I'm like, and then it came close to when the majors, because that's when they pretty much all bid on day 1. I'm like, I don't want to leave. And Randy left and came back, and then he left again. I'm like, why is he leaving during the majors? And it should have clicked like there's fish. He wanted to get back to those fish, and he got a couple of them. And he didn't. I'm like, whatever. I get what I get. So
yeah, I'll say I wasn't like, I figured we could get them. I was gonna put the first 3 fish on the first day. The first 3 fish that I caught were going in the live well. Like I said, I hadn't caught a small fish during pre-fishing, so I was like, if I'm going to get the bite, get him to the boat, it's going to go in. So, like, I got there 5-10 minutes in. I had the first pass, and Eric was behind me, Kevin behind me, and Danny Woodkey were behind me. I got a 6 pounder right away, and I threw that one in the live well. I'm like, perfect. I got one at least, And then about 15 minutes later, I had that one that was 31 and a half, 11 and a half pounds. Just a behemoth. And then I'm like, all right, let's go back up to the top, because Eric got one, and some of the other guys that got one. So we went back up to the top and started making our second drift. And my co-angler's like, I usually get one around noon. And literally 2 casts later, he got like a 6.5 pounder or 6 pounder, and we were done. And I'm just like, oh, well, that's good. It just happens that fast when they're biting.
Yep.
And that's where I wasn't scared to go to Escanaba, because that's how it was. Like, if you could locate the school fast enough, like they were going to bite. Like, it wasn't whether or not you could, like, they were going to bite. And so that's just what it was.
All right. Green Bay, I'm glad it's over. We can move on. I think everybody's glad it's over. Yeah. And hopefully Sakakawea's a lot more fun, but it sounds like it's a little bit up and down up there right now.
Yeah,
so, but that's good. It's warming up. It's been like that a little bit everywhere right now as we kind of hitting these dog days. But the big news that came out this week was the 2025 schedule for the NWT. Bismarck, late April, North Dakota on the Missouri River. La Crosse, I think that's pools 7, 6, 7, 8, something like that maybe.
Sure.
It just says La Crosse. I'm not sure what pool that is. Lake May. Lake Huron, July 10th, 11th. So June is off. Huron in July, and the Dunkirk, New York, Lake Erie in August, with the championship back at Greenbay in September.
Yeah. I don't know. I go back and forth about it. Honestly, for me, just me personally, it sounds like a lot of driving. Like, I know I'm going to be on the road a lot. I haven't been to Bismarck in April, but they have that big muddy tournament up there, and there's some giant fish that get caught in that thing. That's the weekend after we get there or whatever. So it'll be interesting, but again, that's somewhat early, so you never know, especially up in North Dakota, if you're going to
Right.
be in 2 feet of snow or it's going to be 80 degrees in the spring. That's my feeling on that one. Like it could be really good or it could be miserable. We'll kind of see what the spring Mother Nature tells us. I don't know.
Oh, it won't be nice, but it'll be
Yeah.
good walleye fishing. It'll
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
traditional walleye fishing.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah. Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. Lacrosse. I've never been to lacrosse. I know the elites have been there for bass, and some
It's
of
a
those
great
guys
bass
say,
fishery.
yeah,
It's a hell of
they,
a bass fishery.
yeah, that's where. And so I've never been there. I don't know. Do you have any stats even on that, ball, or have you been there before? I never have.
I've
Like,
been there and I
Never
went to
fished
bass
that pool.
fishing real quick. So
yeah, I don't know about that one. I honestly couldn't tell you. July at Alpena. Um, I, I think like I keep reverting back to a lot of those guys that were in Sault Ste. Marie in those later months drove down to Alpena. So that could be good. I don't know. I haven't been there again that time. Like I've fished out of the lower part of the Bay of Saginaw Bay there for those tournaments. But other than that, like I haven't been to Alpena that time of year. But I figure if those guys are driving all the way from Sault Ste. Marie to come down here to those fish, maybe it's good. That's just my opinion. I don't know. And then where else? Dunkirk. I'll say Dunkirk. We caught a ton of fish. Like I told my dad this was the first time that I was physically tired of reeling in fish, like later in the summer, because we were fishing deep water, and I was like, I am physically tired, like of reeling. So I think it'll be interesting. I don't know if I don't know if we'll be able to go to Canada or at all or not, and that's where I mean
we'll never
that's
be in
where
Canadian waters again.
yeah. So that'll be interesting because the casters, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I think the South Shore obviously can hold some fish, but it takes way more pressure um, down there for that stuff. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's honestly, it's going to be a lot of driving, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not.
And these smaller
What do you
lakes.
think, Ball, about the schedule? I'm just curious what you think.
A little bit about some high performance products that I use, and I'm pretty sure you're going to love it too. It's the Seaguar Smackdown braid. There's 3 things about this thin diameter braid that I just absolutely love. 1, it's tough as nails. 2, longest casting, smoothest braid I've ever used. The 8-strand braid, tubular form, just comes off those reels super smooth, long cast. It doesn't make a lot of noise. It's awesome. And 3, it's super sensitive. No matter what kind of lure or jig I'm throwing out there, I can tell. I've grass, weeds, rocks, sand bottom. I can feel it all right through there into my rod. The stuff is extremely sensitive. So Smackdown comes in 2 colors, high vis and stealth gray. Get yourself some of this stuff and you're gonna get yourself some more of these. Check them out at seaguar.com.
So I got to tell you, initially I think I reacted the way a lot of other people did, kind of like, oh my gosh, 2 rivers and 3 Great Lakes, and there's a lot of driving. So the driving part of it, yeah, it's a kind of a nuisance, but I don't know. I think that's to me, it'd be down to my list on whether or not I'm fishing or not, because everyone's got a chance to win it. No matter how far you're driving, whether you're driving 15 minutes or 12 hours, you're still battling to win it. I mean, Bismarck, a lot of big fish. It should be awesome. It's no different really to me than Detroit River with the risk of cold weather. So you just go with it. The other thing I kind of want to preface this whole thing by saying is I had a chance to listen to Jeff Kelm on a podcast, and I kind of got a little bit of a better understanding on what goes into, scheduling all these different tournaments at these different sites. You got to find it fits into their schedule with the MWC, the NWT, Bats. They've got some Bass Federation events. They've got Merck Nationals that they run. And then you have to coordinate with everybody's Chamber of Commerce or whatever that you don't have some other event going on in the city. And so they probably look at a calendar and go, well, I only have 7 weekends that we can pick from, and I got to get 5 events. So you have to shop it around who's ever available. So, I mean, I know it takes a lot of effort to do it. They probably ask you guys where you want to go and stuff. They do the best they can to go to places that the anglers want to go to. But this schedule's good. I mean, I guess the only thing that I'd be concerned with, and I'm hoping that they address, is having a blow day built into those 3 Great Lakes events where you have nowhere to hide. You have nowhere to hide at Alpena, you have nowhere to hide at Dunkirk, you have nowhere to hide at Menominee Marinette. So that to me would be something. If they have that built in, that would be fine. Everyone would understand it. The other thing is what are we going to be doing about these limits? If they can increase the limits on these sites, to me, none of them, it doesn't matter where you go. As long as the limits are fair and equitable, that you don't have to have 3 fish or 2 fish or whatever it is. If you can get this back to a 5 fish limit, even if there is a no party rule law implemented, fine. One guy can catch 4 before then he's got to put his rods down. Whatever, make it a rule. Just make it a rule. I think lacrosse to me is fun. I mean, it's a river. Go figure out how to catch them in a new spot. I mean, rivers are rivers. The Mississippi holds a lot of walleyes from every pool down. Some are better than others, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty much the same. Main current rock if the water's normal, wing dams, and trolling some dunes and flats or whatever somewhere. I mean, I don't know if there's a slot there. I didn't check before this podcast if there's a slot there or not.
I think so.
But I honestly don't know either.
I bet there is, because I think it's just 3 and 4 that lifted that. I think it's that same.
If you can lock anywhere,
9.
It'll be fun. Fish will be. I mean, the river's in good shape. I mean, obviously Pepin was fantastic. Yeah. And I know, even down here by pools 10, 11, 12, and 13, 14. 14's great. So that one doesn't bother me. I'm without knowing the details, I hope they have a blow day built into those last 3. And I think they went back to Marinette because they were so hospitable last time they went there. The weights were good. There's plenty of places you can go north, south, east, and west. If you can't go west. North, south, and east, you can to find them. So I don't have an issue with that. I mean, the driving can be a nuisance, but at the same, maybe if they limited practice next year, that might be better for guys that have to travel, because then it's kind of maybe an equalizer that way, because you spend 1 day to travel, I guess, and that's it. But no, I don't mind it.
Yeah. And I think, obviously, the championship, I think we'd all like to do something a little bit smaller, but, at the same time, it is what it is, in the end. But, it's one of those things where, like you said, they got so much stuff to work around that, it is what it is. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, I loved Ottertail just because it's in my backyard, but it would be interesting to go to, say, the Chippewa Flowage in Green Bay, in Wisconsin, or just something that's smaller that we wouldn't necessarily get to do in a regular
where everybody
season.
hasn't fished 100 times.
Yeah. So but we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. And I agree with you, Ball, that we don't know all the rules yet, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they come up with per se about everything. So
I'm listening. Fingers are crossed that they work this out somehow and they can come up with an equitable solution for everybody, especially the anglers. Just if keep us within the rules is fine. The boundaries and the DNRs of each different state, but let us catch some fish and bring in 5 or have a couple extras. It just it's more inviting to people that are thinking about getting into it. It's more enjoyable to think about. It keeps guys more positive, and it spreads the results out. To be honest with you, it just does. It spreads the results out and separates the guys that are really catching them versus the guys that happen to catch one giant in a 3-fish bag. I don't know. That's the way I feel about it.
They wanted to go.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I honestly, and I'll be honest, Dunkirk, when we were there for the championship, the city was awesome. They did a hell of a job, rolling out the red carpet. They had meals, they had everything. The fire trucks were all down there for takeoff. it was an awesome feeling to have the whole city was kind of around it. And if you saw anyone in town, like, they were excited to see you and they'd ask you questions, and the newspapers were there, and there was a lot of
That's
stuff
good.
going on. So,
No, they came out to Otter Tail the year before to see it. I mean, they were
Yep.
more prepared than most communities, and
Yep.
that's huge. And I mean,
Yep.
I get it. Going there, it just sucks. It's so far
Yep.
away, and I think in August you're fishing pretty deep
Yeah.
for these suckers. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's really my biggest hang up with that place is
Yeah.
the deep fishing does not
Yeah.
appeal to me one bit.
Right. Yeah.
It's just my personal preference. I don't like to catch fish out of 60 foot of water.
Yeah.
It's just it
That's
takes
shallow.
an awful lot of fun. Yeah, it takes an awful lot of yeah, and that's shallow. So just not interested in it.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
fine with me. Marinette and Greenbay is fine. Lacrosse, yeah, it's Mississippi River. It's fine. We'll figure it out. Whatever
Yeah.
pool, if you're locking up, locking down, it's just a place you don't have to worry about the blow days. However, which is fine because that is on Memorial Day is that weekend, which typically you don't get that extra permit day or a blow day as in the past. I don't know. I think majority of that's in Wisconsin, so they're the ones that usually don't let it happen on Green Bay and other places, but shouldn't be a problem because it's on the river. Huron, Alpena, never been there. I know Huron is the windiest of all of them, so you definitely better have a blow day. I think NWC went there this year and they had a one-day tournament.
Blow day. Yeah.
Yep. So I would say you can probably count on that. I remember last time we were in Saginaw, obviously as part of Huron in a sense for the lower part, and yeah, that was the least amount of practice they ever got in a tournament out on the lake.
Yeah.
Because of it. Of course, tournament days ended up being nice. So,
yeah.
So,
well, if I can add, I mean, think about Bass Elites, right? I mean, most of their tournaments are down in the Southeast. And if you're from California, it's not the greatest tour to fish. But if you want to fish the top level, sometimes, you got to do the
sacrifice you got to make.
And the price you got. And so at the most ideal spot is probably to live in Chicago if you're going to fish Sakakawea or if you're going to go fish Dunkirk. Because
Minnesota, Wisconsin, or even Wisconsin's probably the most central.
Wisconsin and Michigan, but that's still it's more
Chicago.
like Indiana, and but not many guys are fishing the tour from around here. So
no, and it's completely fair to go east and west. It should completely be. I just saying for me, it's just honestly, it's the deep water fishing doesn't interest me.
Well, I mean, if you do well in the first two and then you fish the third and you're doing well and you're in the top 10 in AOI, are you going to? I mean, you kind of have to.
Then you have to, right?
Sakakawea on here next week. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, right. So that's the schedule, folks. It'll be interesting. It'll be good. Hopefully, the economy turns, things can shape up, numbers could be great. Schedule's the schedule. It's fair. You go east to west. That's the way it ought to be. It's really just everybody's personal preference where they want to go and how they like to fish. And I hate to be the sniper guy that picks and chooses and change the rules so you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. But until you can, people are gonna do what you can do. So
yeah.
I mean, Alpena probably, or not Alpena, but Dunkirk probably brings in a lot of locals. Championship was there, so they didn't have the chance, but I imagine it probably does.
It's an Erie tournament. Yeah, I'm assuming it does. I mean, they have some big tournaments out there. Yeah.
You'll pick up another 30 or so. The only people who live there, I think, are out that way are Sleeman and Nussbaum.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ryan Buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of guys that fish the loot. There's a bunch of guys that fish the loot that'll get into it.
I bet you bring at least 30 more.
I was down at ICAST this week, and the guys in charge of the circuit they had a conversation with some of your fellow pro anglers. So hopefully there's some dialogue going on now that's going to advance things to where it's going to be some changes and should be pretty good. Hopefully some good comes out of it. But yeah,
there's I'm pretty confident there's a handful of changes coming off for the better. But you hear a lot of the comments on the schedule and stuff. People don't realize, just like you listen to Jeff's podcast about what goes into it, and they don't realize that these guys, they have all the bass tournaments, NWC, and all these things. There's so much more involved with just, we want to go here because this is the best time to go. That's great, but it doesn't work for that community, or it doesn't work for the one organization that's able to manage the stuff, right? It just doesn't work that way. And then Bass Pro on the other side of it things have to make financial decision or financial sense, right? Period. Like maybe you want to go there, but this community is going to offer twice as much, or used to be just a flat fee. I don't know if they're still putting out RFPs is how I would personally do it, and have those communities, bid on it in times. But there's just a lot more that goes to it. Everybody wants live stream this and that. We're like, we get it. That's really expensive and costs a lot of money to do. And this isn't a multi-million-dollar circuit, that is, and you look at MLF, who's shown zero profit ever since inception, right? So there's just things that make business sense from angler's standpoint, obviously the organization standpoint to put it on. And all that is that you don't know what you don't know, and we'll see what the new rules and adjustments and changes are going into next year. And maybe you won't be able just to fish two. Maybe you won't be able to snipe. Who knows? Maybe you got to sign up for all. Or there's a good enough incentive to do that. So then guys like me or Andy got to go, damn it, okay, I guess I'll shut up. I'm going to Dunkirk, New York. I'm going to Alpena, or whatever. I would love to fish them all. So we'll see. But you're also able to roll those over, and if there's payout adjustments where there's more opportunity, maybe you can keep rolling that stuff. And like I said, John, if you finish in those 5, 10 in your AOI you're running, you got to go. Unless obviously something comes up. So on a happier note, Sakakawea always makes me a happy guy because that's where we're going, no matter how it folds. It's a good fishing. They had the Governor's Cup there. I think it just wrapped up yesterday or today, or I didn't see any results. John, I think you saw some. I don't know how that went, what it looked like. For reference, folks, the Governor's Cup is only on the east end of the lake, and it's a very, significantly a small boundary compared to a lot of these tournaments. So they didn't have a lot of area to fish for 200 boat field, I think.
No, I can show you some of the results here for sure. I just have the top 10 and top 20, top 30 weights here. This on the bottom here, July 9th, the Governor's Cup. This is 2 days. First place was 35.23. Second was 10th was 27.28, 20th, and then 30th. So these weights are down because if you look back up on my stats here this was back in 2020, a bunch of AIM events, some NWT back in 17, an MWC. If you look at, let's do this guy here. If you look at the averages, first place has been for 2 days has been 54 pounds. Now that was before these last couple of years where, or at least this year, right? We had an AIM tournament in June. If you guys remember that, well, that was a 1-dayer, and that was 37 pounds of AIM scale. So I took 80% of those totals, 80% of what the AIM scale is. It's usually my figures are somewhere between 18 to 20% of an AIM weight is a true tear weight. So if you equate that out, projected 2-day total to be 60 pounds, better than 54. And some could argue, like Brian, we've talked about it in the past, when you start adding live scope, it does tend to add a few more pounds on the top end, especially. But at the same time, there's an asterisk to this one because there's a no-call tournament, 5 fish.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And these AIM events are unlimited calls because you're not keeping anything. So, then this AIM championship that Eric McCoy won, he had 80 pounds of AIM weight, which equates to about 64 pounds. So again, it's higher than that one from earlier in the year. They're getting bigger. And even you go down into 10th and 20th and 30th, these weights are a little bit better. Here's 30th average. So that's 4 pounds better. 34, that's 10 pounds better. And this is 9 pounds better. So, this is a tough one because this last one that just finished up over the weekend, right? Look at how much lower these were. These are 2-day totals. These are almost half of these. So now, granted, you guys did tell me that this was on a restricted boundary on Sakakawea, which is not going to be restricted come the tournament next week, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we got the whole reservoir.
Yeah, I suspect these weights will somewhere be back around, these guys here, right? You know what I mean? Somewhere around these weights that I'm showing here, should be the deal.
On the top there, you think?
No, I actually think they'll be they'll lean more towards the better ones down here.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
I would say maybe even average. So here's the deal though, right, Drake? So you got to add a little bit here because of you're adding the live scope, but because there's no cull, maybe that kind of offsets it, right?
Yeah, it's 5 fish. That's it.
That's it. So, I mean, I don't know. I would say in my gut, somewhere between here and here is where I would be. But 40 pounds for 10th place, probably not that far off. 49 was the one on, maybe mid 40s. Maybe like I said, maybe add 10% to these totals. So this would be about 60. This would be about 44. This would be about 38, and this would be about 30 for 30th place. I don't know. I mean, the bite hasn't sounded that great, right? You guys have heard that recently. It's not been wonderful. But if you go back to the years that you guys fished it, like 2020, first place was 51 pounds, 10th place was 41, 20th was 36, and 30th was 32. And if you go back all the way to 17, when Dewey won it, first was only 45, 10th was 36, so close to the 10th place that was 40 pounds in 2020. 20th was 34th, and 36 pounds was 20th a couple years ago. And then 30th was 32.7, and 30th was 32 pounds. So the 30th, 20th, and 10th are probably going to be fairly close. Maybe the 10th is going to be a little bit better on averages. But that first place, I can imagine, with no call, I don't know if it's going to be 80 pounds like Eric did in that AIM tournament. That's a tall task when there's no call, right? Because exactly. And that's the AIM scale. So converted, it's 64 pounds. So I say 64 pounds to me is on the high end. 10 6.5 pounders, that's pretty darn good for any tournament anywhere.
100%.
50 to 55 sounds a little. What was Northrop's in 20? 51 pounds?
Yeah.
He had a huge 28-pound bag.
You had a 28-pound day two. So I'm guessing it's going to be mid 55 to 58, something like that. And then 40-something maybe for 10th. I don't know. That's just kind of, I'm going to be wide on my predictions only because, I haven't heard the bite's been really, really good. But I guess
the whole fishery is just a little up and down. I think it's good, but when they say the bite isn't very good on Sakakawea, that means they're only catching 20, 30 something fish a day instead of the 50, 60, whatever. And it seems like some of the big fish a little more sparse, but there's tournament a few days before the NWT, there's a tournament the day after. We're hitting it really just right because then it gets in like the next 10 days, there's 4 more tournaments. So, and you had the Governor's Cup this weekend, but that was on the east end in a very small portion of the lake. When you open up the whole thing, a lot of those big fish, maybe they're not there yet or whatever the case is. But it's the Governor's Cup. I mean, everybody's in locals. It's got different divisions, smaller boats, it's just kind of an annual event for a lot of people. You're not fishing it how we are because the Mississippi River was a tough bite according to the locals when we got there. But we broke that down. Drake had covered on before. We fish differently, and people like me who've never been there, you don't know if it's a tough bite or not. You've never been there, so you're out hunting for these. You don't go to where you just normally go and go, well, it just sucks. I'm going to call it a day. You go find out new stuff. So,
it's I don't know. I go back and forth about this thing. Yes, okay, we can open up the whole lake, but it's North Dakota, and like every other day it's windy. So like if we don't get to run however far, like then what?
It changed. It's really weather dependent because that's going to roll on that thing.
And that's just it. Like you get an east or a west or even like a south, and good luck getting anywhere. Like you're stuck. And obviously I know a little bit more just because I've talked to Eric about it a lot, but like he caught some of those big fish like right away in the morning, and he's like, I had a very good bag, but he goes, the second day we just kept going and going and going on it, so he's like, I wouldn't have had that the second day. He's like, I would have thrown a few of these fish in that I, in the aim I didn't have to worry about. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think, I like that the local team that ended up in second in the Governor's Cup, they had 31 pounds the first day. So, and they had like a 9-pound fish. So that's 22. And they look like they had another 7 or 8 pounders. So that's like 16, 17 pounds of their 5,
I think
so
big
the
fish
other
do
ones.
7. So.
Right. Yeah. And so their other fish were 4 pounders. Well, the next day they only got 1 4-pounder, so it's, I don't know. It'll be
place
interesting.
will spit out 35-pound bags. It's done it quite a few times.
Yep. No, and I don't doubt it. It's just, I don't know. These guys, I don't know. I keep thinking more and more because it's interesting. These guys are so good that if you can actually find something to yourself, like you're going to do very well. And that's what I think we found. Like at Greenbay, we just got lucky and we found those fish off to ourselves. But like that's a rarity to happen. These guys are so good that you're going to have to deal with more boats and stuff. But I look at Sakakawea and there's 7,000 bays and maybe you can find them in a bay. I don't know.
I was I had a map out today because I'm fishing the Dakota Walleye Classic there Friday and Saturday. Just I'm like, whatever. We'll just pre-fish it and whatever we'll cover. And it's got a boundary too, and it's the Beacon to Douglas, so it's a small section. But to your point, first time there, I think I finished 4th, just barely out of 3rd, and I couldn't see a boat as far as I could see. I couldn't see anybody. There was nobody even remotely close. And fished for an hour and a half, and it was done. Like 22 pounds or something.
Yeah.
But there's 100 of those little spots on that lake.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, the water, they keep saying that they want it to warm up. They want the water temps to warm up and those fish will snap. Well, they're getting so much water into the system. Like since Eric's been there, I think they said it's came up like 11 or 12 feet. Yep. So like it's not warming up. And does that push the fish way back into the bays, or are they still going to be out on points and deep rock humps where we think they should be, but they're not there yet because the water's come up and it's kept them in the backs of those bays? I don't know. We're gonna find out when we get there.
Yeah, it's making more water to cover.
What are you guys thinking the predominant patterns are going to be for people listening that really have no idea what's going on in Sac? But what are going to be like the predominant patterns that guys are going to be doing to probably catch it and win it?
Rig and crick jubs.
I'll say that. I think that's honestly going to be a big factor. And there's not a ton of tournaments where we can say that rigging has been like a big thing. But
taco.
Yeah, but I think at this one, that's going to be big. I think glide baits are going to play a big role. I mean, I think we're in July. They're going to eat a glide bait if you can find them. Yeah. And then I don't know, slip bobbers or a jig and a plastic those are always. I shouldn't say slip bobbers and always, but like a jig and a plastic in the Dakotas is always a staple for a lot of people,
The 4 things I'll have rigged up sitting on the deck because you just nailed them all. It's jig and wrap, glide baits, rigging chubs, a live bait. Maybe it could even be a crawler, slip bobber. You got suspended smelt, and you may have this new weed bite. So that obviously the plastics can go deep, shallow, wherever. Yeah. Well, I think those are the 3 things. I think your crick chubs are your big fish deals, but I've caught some glide baits produce some pretty nice fish there too. Yeah. And when you get on them and they're feeding, you can get them quick. They're healthy fish, and it's a smelt heavy system. So
I think I think the co-angler could play more into this one if we are out on those deep ones. Because yes, we could be looking, but if they can run 2 creek chub rods in the back, they can be very efficient with that, where they could maybe beat us or catch just as many. I think that'll be an interesting factor too. Versus some of these spots, they might not necessarily have a chance.
Do you think live scope's going to be predominantly the deal for the top, or because of dragging these creek chubs around, does that change how a guy live scopes now, right? Or forward facing sonars, because he's got to slow down a little bit if he's got some bouncers and some rod holders. So what are your thoughts on, like, is there going to be kind of a hybrid between using your forward facing and rigging spots on spots, moving a lot slower than traditionally we've heard guys zipping around until they see one and they're casting at them? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a good question. I mean, I even think like the minnow thing, like we could be throwing minnows on jigs too at these things too. Like, it's going to be interesting because I don't think, and maybe I'm 100% wrong. It seems like Sakakawea is more of like, if they're on a point, that's what point they're on. They don't just wander off. But at the same time, like I haven't had live scope on Sakakawea really. I mean, I had it the last time we were there, but I was just learning it. And now I feel like I'm just going to start wandering more and seeing. You know, one of the things that I always look up to Cody Northrup. We know he's one of the better ones out there, you know, and he always said it's interesting now to see what we're going to come up with, because he goes, at each one of these events, we always come up with this new bite now just because we don't miss anything. So that open water bite in the trees that no one has ever been able to find out or figure out, the smelt thing, like they're here one day, gone the next. Like, will guys figure that out and pull up monster bags? You know, I don't know. You know, it I don't know. Makes a guy nervous, but at the same time, like, we'll see.
So I got a lot of local friends up there, and they say scoping hasn't been the ticket, but you're bringing in the best scopers in walleye fishing are about to embark on Sakakawea, and I'll tell you, scoping's going to play a major factor with Drake Hurt on a live scope, Eric McQuaid on a live scope, John Hoyer on a live scope, Dewey, Tom. It's going to play. Can it be one without it up there? Yes, it can.
Yeah.
No doubt. Those fish move. It's still a river, and there's a lot of other fish in it. Maybe not quite like the Mississippi.
Yeah.
You got to hopefully be a little more walleye heavy centric, fishery. But how do they react to the scope up there as well? You know, the place actually gets a lot of pressure for North Dakota. It's a hell of a lot of people fishing Sakakawea, but it's a huge, reservoir system. So it's going it'll play into it. But I think you have a 5 fish limit. You're going to have some locals, and it's the 4th tournament. So obviously there's some people that aren't going to go because the travel and they're out of points. But some guys are trying to make the championship, so there's going to be some conservative side.
Mm-hmm.
Not from Hunter, not from Eric, and not from a couple, probably from Hunter and Eric, because they're going for the AOI. They can't be. But other guys, Drake's at a place that maybe fish semi-conservative.
Yeah.
You know, that place is full of, I'm hearing, 18 to 23 inchers.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
I'm throwing 23 incher in every time at this one. I'm telling you that right now.
I'm fishing it like a local, so. Because I'm not going to championship. I'm all in on everything on this one. 5 pounds and up, maybe. That's what we're going for.
What is that on 10 fish? That's 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And I got 50 to 55 to win it. So.
Okay. I'm throwing a 23 incher in. I'm telling you that right now. I don't care. It's just
last 2 times we were there, day 2, my smallest fish was a 23. I think both, and I had maybe a 22 on the second time we were there.
Well,
smallest fish.
I think I've only had the 2 times. I've only had mediocre finishes. The first time I didn't make the run, and I kind of got my butt handed to me. That was one of my earlier ones where I'm like, there's no way these guys can run that far. And I said, let alone they can't do it 2 days in a row. And they literally just shoved it down my throat 2 days in a row. And I was like, oh, I learned my lesson there.
I didn't make the run the second day, and I had a bigger bag.
I know. And that's
where I didn't make a 90-mile run. I made a 60-mile run, but not 90.
Yeah, that's where I went 54, and I was staying close. You know, it was just one of those things.
Biggest bag I caught on day 1 was caught within about a mile from the boat ramp. Day 2. Carl Walkenbach, 26 pounds, and I stopped on my way. It's a funny story I'm going to tell, because I stopped because he was sitting there on this point. I'm coming in at 11:30 or something, and he's just sitting there. You know, Carl, he's sitting back smoking a cigarette. Pull up like, hey, everything all right, Carly? Like, we're not far from getting in. And he goes, no, I'm done. and he's just burning through them. He's happy as hell. Because he's not a jigger, right? He said, "Here, Greenbay guy trolls, and he'll be the first." He's like, "I don't jig." Well, he just jigged up 26 pounds because he was kind of like threw in the towel at this point and started casting, just whack, 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 and he was like, "Oh my god!" And he crushed it. And he said, "I'm not weighing in early, damn it, because I'm never on TV, so I'm waiting until 3:00 until that camera's rolling before I bring my fish in." Like, all right, man, just making sure you're okay. So I went in and, they fired up the cameras. I weighed in and whatever, a couple of things. Dewey weighed in right behind me and won. And then Anthony found out about it. Then finally Carl came in and at least docked his boat, but he still wouldn't bring his fish up.
Yeah.
Anthony went down and was like, "Damn it, Carl, get up here and get these fish weighed in so we can get them back." He's like, "No." They're having this little argument about it. He's like, "Not till I'm on camera." And then the air shows, and he still didn't make TV. So, poor guy.
Son of a gun. Yeah.
So there's big fish on the east end of the lake. And the last time we were there, were some pretty good bags caught, once again, within 5 miles of takeoff. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there is. I mean, we a little bit get sucked into the long run, but there's times where literally go around the corner and start fishing and you can whack them, So.
Right. And they're one day and gone tomorrow and vice versa. It's fishing.
Yeah.
It's the Missouri River. It's going to throw some stuff at you, and it's definitely going to throw some weather at you. We were fortunate the 2 times we've been there. We've had pretty good weather on tournament days, especially that year at the long run. It was like glass. So I think the second time we were there, day 2 afternoon, got some wind. So sometimes it pays to get your first fish early and get out of there. But it isn't when you get on a pot of fish there and they're going, you can get them really fast.
Yep.
No matter what you're doing, rigging or glide baiting, there's no feeding line for 2 or 3 minutes to these fish if they're eating a creek chub. It's grab the rod, set the hook, it's on it.
Yeah.
So have a lot of hooks because you're going to leave some in them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I know a 23 incher is going in my live well, every single one of them. I don't care.
And, it's always easy to say from here, but then we get there, we start fishing, we're like, it might be a 22 incher that's going in your live well. We'll see. Obviously, the day dictates. So fish the day, fish the system that it gives us, and see where it goes. But I'm 55, 60, John. I'm thinking 50, 55.
I'm in that mid 50s, kind of mid to upper 50s. So I might even who knows?
Because there's nothing to play with, and there's
the numbers rarely lie. I mean, the averages usually are pretty darn close. And granted, all things being equal on this one, right? You need the weather to have everybody be able to make the runs wherever they want to go. If there's a bad weather day, it's going to drop these weights significantly in my mind, because it's going to be the haves and the have-nots. Some guys will catch bags as big as they would if they were traveling 60 miles or 80 miles, but there's just going to be a lot less fish caught, I think, if they have to stay close. But yeah, that's it. But you guys are both in a chance, to make the championship. Drake, obviously, at 14th heading into this one. You just basically can't zero, I think, and you're in. And Brian, I think you still got an outside shot. I know if you win it, you're in. But I think you're within about 200 points of the average, so you're going to need probably some help. But you'll probably need like a top 2 or 3 to based on the numbers. The reason why, because I don't know if the listeners know this, but this is for the first time. You are not allowed to get information after this derby before the championship. And
off limits 2 weeks.
It's after SAC,
right?
Yeah. No. After SAC
on Friday. Completely.
We can't even. Correct. I can't even go fish with a friend that's in it. Zero zip, and you can only fish with a co-angler if you're in it. That's it.
Pre-fishing, and you can't even have anybody pre-fishing with you.
Unless it's a co-angler tournament.
Now, I got some thoughts on that. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised they only did it for this one tournament. If you're going to do it, maybe do it on next year's schedule. And the other thing is to it's not always the safest to be out on a big Great Lake by yourself to pre-fish. That's a little bit weird too. I think they could maybe get some marshals or something. I don't know. But that's just my opinion.
Have a 40 boat fill on a Great Lake.
Yeah.
It's just another reason.
Get all your information now on Huron between now and the Derby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have zero information on the Huron, and I would have zero information going into it either way. So that does okay. That brings me to 90% chance. Okay, I'll bring it down to 90% chance. That is
exactly. He's
level that
talking tough. He's talking tough now. Just wait.
I'm just bitter. So it's
You can hardly
when you're having a season. Yeah, right. Super positive. This when you're on it, you're on it. When you're not, you're not. There are just times you just got to face the facts and just be like, my guiding season, suck it. A lot of it's the fishery, whatever, but it's up and down. It's just is what it is. So yeah, confidence is through the roof. But that's why I'm running 3 tournaments next week. That's why I'm fishing 3 tournaments next week to turn this over, get this thing upside down. Confidence for Sakakawea. Having fun. It'll be good. I'm so not looking to Huron that it's just not on the radar. That's how I put it mentally in the head that I don't care about. We'll discuss after the tournament.
Yep. You'll act tough. You just wait. You win this one, you got another $100,000 in your pocket. Oh, I guess I'll go.
I went this one. I got to open up help Eric with his boat sales shop over there.
Yeah.
See if he can turn some boats. He's going to have 2 or 3 boats for sale.
He's got one gone. I don't know.
Oh, did he get one?
Yeah, one's gone, but he's got one left. So, or 2 left essentially. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of guys that are still trying to move some that have been on there for months.
Tough times, really tough times.
Tournament guys trying to move them.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I thought July was going to be a bad guide month, and today's I had to take the day off to come home and do stuff. But other than that, it's 2 more days and run home late Tuesday, pack up, and leave. So,
yeah.
All right, time for these picks. John is winning with a total of 340 points. The lowest points go. He had 133 points on the last event. Drake finished second with 162 points. And I was in third with 201 points. But overall, Drake's in last, 375. I have 366. John's at 340 as far as our fantasy goes. So John's leading, then myself, and then Drake. Pretty tight. I mean, one guy. Drake got us. We got that guy that got a 0.
Mm-hmm.
And that dropped us back quite a few points, but nobody's more disappointed than he is. We're playing the fantasy world.
I saw him at
ICAST.
He's pretty bummed.
And that sucked.
Still got a chance to get in. He can win Saturday and get in. So
he's got to win. Just you win, you're in, and I know Corey he'll go to Huron if he wins. He's in. So
just like you. If you win, you're coming. I
get enough peer pressure,
tough.
right?
Act tough and negative. Don't give me that.
Yeah.
Okay. Does third place gets to pick first then?
Sure.
I don't know. I was just throwing that out there.
Sounds good. I got mine written down already, so.
I should have probably thought about this a little more. I thought I'd wing it this time. Maybe it'd help me out. I'm going Eric then. He's on it. Part of my team. I got to go with him.
I'm going Eric.
He's my number.
Okay.
I'm sure our 1 and 2s are probably all the same. So we all have.
All right, I'll go for. I'll go my second one. I'll go Tom Wynn.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Hunter.
I'm gonna go Will.
Will Appenfuss.
Mm-hmm.
My pick. I'll go Dewey.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going Dewey also.
Yeah. Well, Dewey's. I got Dewey's on. He's on there, but
I'll go to Governor's Cup an hour ago.
Yeah, so. I know. He's on the Missouri River. Like, I get it. I'll go Dewey.
All right, I'll go for my 4th pick. I am going Pappenfuss. Will I am.
Ooh, I've got to go with me. Mr. Confidence over here, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's just Huron. It's just Dunkirk. Yep. I love these places, I swear.
Mr. Negative Nancy over here. I am going to... I don't know. I'm gonna have that on there, but I got one more pick. I'm honestly debating. This might be a little different, but between Chase, Chemos, or Kinger is who my last one would
One of
be.
those was mine, but I was debating it too. And it's one of those, but I'm not telling you who it is, but it was one of those.
Yeah. I feel like Kinger just got off of a good one at the Montana. Chemos and Chase, like, they got to have a good one here one of these times. You know, they're too good a fisherman not to. And Chase has done both of them have done very well on the Missouri River, you know. I'll go Kinger.
Good. So we all got 4. So I guess I'll do my last pick. So this is a pick that I'm taking a guy, tour veteran. I think he's going to get his first NWT victory. It's Jacob L.
Jake, God,
he scoped him in Greenbay. I think he admittedly is getting better at it, and he's from North Dakota, and I just think he's due. He's like only one of 7 guys that have fished every single NWT, by the way. And Corey's in jeopardy of losing that if he doesn't make the championship.
Yeah. And that's where, like, I give Jake L. I have gained so much respect for after the last 3 or 4. Like, that's a great pick. I was talking to him probably 4 or 5 days ago, and I'm like, you know what? He could actually do one of these ones here. Like, I could see that. So that's a good pick. I'll give you that one. Go.
I'll take Chemos.
And then I'll take myself as number 5. Yep, hopefully I can do some damage.
You have Eric, Will, Dewey, King, Drake. John's got Eric, Tom Wynn, Dewey, that's Dwayne Young for people that don't know, and Will Pappenfoos, Jacob L. I have Eric, Hunter Nitty, myself, Dewey.
And what about any other dark?
So we have
guys. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I think you were going to say.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting. Like, I'm happy that you picked Jake L, because that was in the back of my mind too. And the guy is cashed. Like, you look at his stats, and like, it's impressive how many checks he's got, and you know he's due for one. I mean, he gave Eric a run for his money, you know. So, him, Dustin Jeldon. I mean, he's another guy that he hasn't had the best year, but you get him into the Dakotas and he seems to figure stuff out. Obviously we were all thinking about Cody Northrup, but with his situation and stuff, it's tough to not pick him, even though he's not fishing, you know. It's one of those things where life comes first, you know. So he would have been one.
He would have been one.
Think of who else I was thinking of.
Those that are listening, and if you're listening to this podcast, go back a week. You can hear Cody Northrup's podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Airs tomorrow night.
My thoughts and prayers for sure. 100%. Good dude.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that he'll call you and just bullshit with you, and all of a sudden there's 2 hours later, and it's just like, all right, I guess I got to actually go get some stuff done, you know?
Right.
So obviously, I mean, a lot of us are heartfelt for him, and our thoughts and prayers are obviously with him on that whole ordeal.
Yeah, a couple of guys I was thinking about along that vein. Dean Arnolison travels with him. I think Dean's going to have a little good derby. He is a surprisingly really good rigger. So, and he's getting better with the forward facing. Keith Kavais is another one, reservoir guy. And Defabaugh. Defabaugh is another guy that did well out there last time, and he just always seems to somehow find himself into a top 10, a couple of them a year.
He's good. Mike's good.
And Max, we haven't even talked about Max.
What do your stats?
Yeah. I fished next to Max the second time we were there in Douglas, and we kind of did circles around each other, and I think I ended up not that good, but he ended up getting all 5 of his to the boat or whatever, and so, you know, he can find them. So, and honestly, you know, you look at like Dusty Minky too, or Hoyer, I mean, they're right there too. You know, it's not just Dewey, but, you know, when you get into the Dakotas, that's what you start thinking, you know, so.
You get a little experience on that.
Hoyer. So. I mean, Minky, that's a great pick too. I mean, Max.
Do your stats have any from history? Again, we've only been there twice, so there's
Yeah,
not a whole lot
I
of
didn't
history
even do
on
an
it. It's
average. I didn't do an
quite a
average
few
even
years.
too. I've got the results in
Yeah,
front of me. You know, back when Cody won it, there's a lot of the guys aren't even in it. And, you know, Defabot took a 7th. Shimoda had a 9th.
Yeah.
Brett King at 10th. Sprangle at a 12th. Dustin Sheldon was 12th. Sprangle was 11th. Bashora was 14th. Boyer was 16th. So, and then that was 20, 17. Dewey, Brian, you had a 4th there too. So you got a 17th and a 4th, right? 14th and a 4th. That's awesome. And then, just not a lot of. Chase was 14th. Nick Schertz. Shimoda's had 2 good derbies, a 16th and a 9th. So he's one to look for. But yeah, Bjorkman, North Dakota guy.
You got Heiser too.
Yeah. So that's kind of it on the, with the 2 times that we've been there. There's not anyone that's really jumping out. That's, I mean, Shimoda and you will probably have some of the 2 or better average finishes over the 2 times you've been there. So consistency wise.
Well, I've been there 6 times, and I have got 3 more 4th and 5th
there you
places.
go. There you go. He's got 19 checks and 7 top 10s in like 49 or 50 events, I think. So yeah. But he's never won. So that's kind of why I was hoping he got a chance to hoist a trophy. That'd be a great place for him to do it. His family's going to be by there and close. So
yeah.
I
don't know how far he lives from there, but I don't think it's too god awful far. So I think he fishes that body of water a little bit. So everybody's due. Everybody's day comes sooner or later if you stick with it and fish them. You got to show up. You got to go fish them. You can't just go to the ones you want to, right?
Yeah.
Whether you do good or bad, it increases your odds the more you fish.
Yeah.
I think those numbers tell the truth alone. So, all righty, we'll see where we shake out, Drake, and if we can catch up with John. We're not too far. He's just got a 35-point lead or so. We'll get him. He needs one of those zeros like we had.
I don't want any of the guys I picked to 0.
Nobody's zeroing. Nobody's zeroing Sakakawea. There may be some big differences, but everybody's catching a fish. So everybody's catching fish. There's plenty of fish to be caught. It's good fishery. It's going to be a good time. And we'll see where it rolls, and we'll get into the see how this lands. We roll into the Lake Huron Championship, and we'll pick the top 40, and or the top 40 will be picked. We'll pick our picks for that. So, any closing thoughts from any of you guys? We good
Travel
to go?
safe and good luck, guys.
Yeah, sounds good.
All your bearings and hubs, stay connected to your trailers, and make it there and back, baby. That's for every time. Check them and grease them and go.
Yeah.
I talked to some other guys, and I said, I don't know who spends more time. Do you spend more time looking ahead or more time looking in the rearview mirror watching your boat?
Oh.
A lot of guys are like, I'm not the only one. So, I think it happens to you once you just get.
Yeah, you just look.
You're just looking and fidgety about it. So, whatever. All right. Sounds good. So, Brian's going to go check his attitude and get back to fishing. All right. Whether you guys continue to tear it up, and John keeps us all on track with what's going on in the world. ICAST, John, was a good turnout, good products. Any wrap on that thing? I didn't get to go this year.
It was great. It's always just fun to go. If you're any kind of a fishing junkie like we are, it's just so nice to see all the different new products. Just talk to the manufacturers, talk to other pros to see what's going on. All new products, not a lot of the olds there, but some new lipless coming out from Berkeley I thought was cool. Some new line coming out from a bunch of different companies that look pretty good. Rappala's got some really good tungsten jigs coming out. Looked really cool.
I saw forward-facing sonar baits was kind of the trend.
Yeah, it was. But everyone's got some new rods and reels coming out. That's all pretty much every year. But the Garmin didn't really have anything new to be released. Lowrance apparently came out with $1,000 forward-facing sonar, forward only. And then Humminbird, there was just some scuttle talking about they're coming out with, I think, a second version of their live. Supposed to be much improved. So that's something to look for too, I heard about. But yeah, it's just great to be down there. It's literally like a kid in a candy store. You can't even cover all the aisles. It's awesome. Yeah, I recommend it to anyone if they can somehow get a ticket, have a manufacturer's give them a badge just to go every year. It's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it's always fun and good to see everybody. Did you get to go, Drake?
I didn't this year. I was too busy with stuff around home.
Yep, me too.
I was a little bummed. I mean, obviously, it's like, oh, I got to do all that traveling, but man, it's such a fun event. Like John said, like you get to see the who's who, and it's a blast down there. So I know I'll be going next year. But yeah, I was a little bummed I couldn't make it this year. I just had too much stuff going at the shop trying to get orders and stuff out.
I know Norsk Lithium.
Yeah.
We released quite a few.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. They had a big booth there, actually, Brian. They did. That was kind of the buzz around them was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, they and you knew kind of going in, they had some pretty cool stuff that they were going to release. So I think that was very good, and they're smart about it. I think they're trying to really change how this all operates and stuff. So it's good.
Yeah, I actually just signed with them like a month ago.
Good for you.
I'm looking forward to getting some more Norsk in my boat than what I already have. So I brought that in to run my live scope, and
thankfully
that works. They last all day. I got five drafts on it.
Thankfully, I flew back Thursday before all that mess with the software, and John Gilman too. John Gilman and all of his crew got back Thursday night as well. I've heard some horror stories. Brent Adler and I were texting back and forth. Chad Pickens and I just bad stuff on them getting back. Delays and spending the night. Yeah. Brad Roombanis had to rent the last electrical vehicle that the rental companies had, and he had to stop every 110 miles to charge it for like an hour. It was some sort of it was like a Mercedes EV. I don't even know if he's home yet. Who knows? Because every hour and a half he had to stop.
A week later. Yeah.
All right. Well, before you get me going down a political rabbit hole, which could be about a 4-hour discussion on here, we better wrap this up when you start going EVs. So probably why my attitude is the way it is lately, but even though good things happen today in that political interim. All right, there we go. See, here we go. But all right, that's a wrap. We'll call it good. See you at Sakakawea, Drake, and John. We'll talk to you soon. And thank all you for tuning in to Real Talk Fishing and all the other stuff that comes along with it. You got the fantasy picks. Keep an eye on it this coming week and see where it lands. So thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the water.